Hey everybody, welcome to the Human Pro podcast. This is the first episode. I'm Nolan Brown, the host. I have my wife, Amanda Brown, on with me today, and a very special guest, Ben Eberle.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ben is an expert in the data engineering. How would you describe your role?
Absolutely. I'm a software engineer and data scientist by trade.
Excellent. Now, how did you get into that?
Yeah, I guess kind of a roundabout way. Started out at Front Range Community College in a business route and transferred into CSU. And a ways into my business career was really lacking some of the scientific elements, I think, that I craved. So in that school, I saw that a lot of the kids were using these really advanced softwares to do like market analysis and things like that. And so that really sparked my interest in computer science and thought, hey, go to the source, right? Let's just go to what all these people are using to do their job.
And what school was that again?
CSU.
CSU. Okay. So you went to CSU for what though? What was the initial?
Started out at Front Range Community College.
Okay.
Didn't get accepted into any colleges. Was really not academically inclined until I went to community college. I think that was really beneficial because I was in classes with a really diverse set of people, right? There were some people who were single moms and were going back to school to better themselves.
Sure.
There were also brainiacs, kids who probably could have been at Ivy League schools, but their families couldn't afford that, so they were going through the community college route.
Yeah.
So I spent 2 years there on the transfer plan into CSU and then transferred on that. And then spent 1 year at CSU in the business program before I actually transferred over to the computer science program.
Amazing. So you went in for business and then got your interest peaked into computer science.
Absolutely, yeah. And at that age, just didn't quite know what I was wanting to do for a career yet. And this really landed in my lap. And
I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I'm just figuring it out day by day. So
Same. Yeah.
I think that's a pretty common experience. But well, for someone like my wife, do you know what data scientists are?
Absolutely not.
How would you explain it to her?
Yeah. So these days, data is being produced constantly at massive amounts. So what we deal with is really gathering that data. We call it wrangling, pre-processing that data. So just turning it into a readable format or an understandable format for either humans to use or other software programs to then use.
So training AI to read it?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the big precursors to LLM would be wrangling all that data for you to then feed into the LLM to learn, to train it.
What's LLM?
So LLMs are large language models, and that's like ChatGPT or Claude or all of this explosion in AI that you've seen.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It was a kind of a revolutionary technique with machine learning that then produced LLMs.
Okay.
Cool. Love it. I love having you on because it really helps. A lot of times when you're in the industry, you just start rattling off acronyms and people are like, I don't know what that alphabet soup means, but that's great.
That's a huge problem with our industry for sure.
For sure.
I use ChatGPT and Gemini pretty much every day, so it's cool to know.
Yeah. And it's infecting all parts of our lives, right? For better or for worse.
Right.
I'm an author, and I started using it to help critique my work.
Good.
So.
Yeah, why not? It's like having someone there to bounce ideas off of. That's huge.
That's excellent. Okay, so you got into CSU for business. I love the story of starting out in the community college because it's like, so many of us, I took community college credits.
Sure.
I've got a degree from a different university because it all transferred in, but there's nothing wrong with that. That is an amazing way to, first of all, save a lot of money, get ahead of the game, and then just whatever your path looks like.
Yeah, I completely agree. Everything was directly transferable to CSU. So saving money was crazy. And then I actually, once I got into CSU, went back and took classes at Front Range up to the 60 credits that I was allowed to transfer over. It's just a no-brainer. They're amazing teachers at the community college, some that are highly qualified to teach at a university, but just happen to be at that point in their career where they're at the community college. So it was really formative, I think, for my whole career.
Yeah, that's excellent. Okay, so it piqued your interest to get into more of the computer science side. Tell us a little bit about that. What was appealing to you about that?
Yeah, I think I come from a family of scientists. Dad is in public health and does a lot of chemistry. My brother is a mechanical engineer. My other brother is in hospitality.
Being a nerd is in your blood, is what I'm.
Yes, absolutely. It was difficult to keep up at the dinner table.
I'm sure.
And so I think I was just kind of raised with that scientific mindset. And while I love business, and I'm finding out in this part of my career, I need to continue to grow in the business sector of things, the business admin side of things. It really, computer science satisfied that middle ground between, I would say, like the business side of things and then the scientific, right? But the mixture of the two, to where computer science, you have to be so aware of the business that you're programming for, right? So you have to learn both sides of it. Just a little bit of a step away from like the laboratory, right? We're not far, we're close to the lab, but we're also really close to the business representatives.
Yeah, fascinating. So then you segued into that. Was there a particular area of computer science that you just gravitated towards? Obviously data. I mean, that's...
You know, at the same time, I was working for a job for my uncle. He was really nice. I worked a string of really awful manual labor jobs and had offered me a job at his company. He does insurance technology.
Okay.
Kind of a small independent business, but they do technology solutions for the wholesaling insurance industry. When I started out in that, I was on the business side of things also, and his company was producing software. So I got a little bit of an introduction into here's how a software team works, here's the types of things that they're producing. So that really helped spark my interest in the computer science school.
Totally.
And then once I got in there, it really just came naturally, I think. I've been pretty tech savvy my whole life. Our generation growing up with video games and all types of stuff. It really flowed naturally, and then just became really enjoyable, I think.
That's amazing. So then you've worked on some pretty amazing projects in your career.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been real lucky to get onto a financial services company where we're doing a massive overhaul of their old technology. So that's been a really a crash course in taking that old technology, bringing it up to the cloud, rewriting a lot of software. And I think kind of through doing that is really formative for engineers, right? Understanding where we came from really helps us all understand where we're at now. These things like the cloud and stuff really don't make sense to anybody who hasn't worked on an on-prem system, right? With on-prem servers. They didn't understand the value that bringing the cloud in really brought, you know?
It's like talking about baking a pie and you've never touched flour, you've never...
Is on-prem like on-site?
Yeah, absolutely. We used to house servers in a room, in a building.
Back when I was working at the bank, you remember I showed you the server racks, that was my job. I mean, we're talking 2010, 2012, somewhere in there.
And you needed to hire someone who understood that, to build them, to maintain them, to buy one of those stacks was really expensive. What these cloud providers came in was provide that remotely, as a service. So we can get all these things through the
first step was they put all of that stuff into a co-location. So instead of having it in your own building, it was like, put it in this building for everybody. And you rented like rack space. Funny enough, the name rack space. I mean, these companies still exist. And so then what happened after that is they started to say, well, wait a second. I'm already connecting to this co-location with my own hardware. I don't want to pay for all the hardware continuously. And so this is where you had like AWS really was the 800-pound gorilla in the room who Jeff Bezos basically decided, I'm going to build my own infrastructure to serve Amazon, dog food it himself. Dog fooding is you eat your own product so that you know whether it's good or not. And then from there, he opened it up to the world and everybody else started using it too. And then Microsoft came along with Azure and you got Google, it's GCP. And I think IBM has one, but those are the three everybody knows. Nobody else knows the rest of them. But,
absolutely. Yeah. So it, I guess cost savings is the biggest part, right?
Huge.
You can cut out jobs and then also cut out the need to house that space, that electricity, those servers, all that stuff.
Imagine everybody's sharing the same computer and they're all just renting it part-time, pay as you go. If you need it for 5 minutes at high power, then you pay for 5 minutes at high power. If you need it for 3 minutes at low power, then that elasticity allows, think about an accounting firm, right? They're really busy for tax season, but the rest of the year, it's like way less. So you wouldn't want to have to buy like a $10,000, $20,000 server to serve your needs for 2 months and then have it sitting there for the rest of the year. you'd want to basically rent access to a big server for those 2 months and then dial it down so you can save a lot of money.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy. Definitely usage is a big part of it.
For sure.
So yeah, the job at the financial services company has been great. It's in a modern tech stack. We're using all sorts of cutting edge technologies, all sorts of cutting edge DevOps practices, standing up frameworks that the entire company can then use. So then developers are spinning up applications quicker and faster, getting them into production faster. It's really been a huge crash course in the engineering side of things, right?
Yeah.
Understanding how a large organization runs their business, runs the enterprise side of software things. And it's been huge. I hope to take all of that information and hopefully someday start a company I could then apply it.
Amazing. So now you mentioned something I think is really important, especially as it relates to this, this, I don't want to call it a hysteria, but in some ways there is a hysteria about AI. There's a lot of people talking about it, bragging about it, that don't even know how it works.
Right.
And then there's legitimate innovators out there saying, let's leverage AI to make an impact. But everybody wants on that bandwagon because it's got a lot of attention right now. One of the things you brought up was if you haven't touched the on-prem servers, you're at a huge disadvantage for understanding the concepts of how to do it in the cloud because it's all abstract. I mean, how do you see that with an AI world? Because we've got people saying like, well, I don't need a dev. I can just use AI and it'll write the code for me.
Sure.
I think that's good until you run out of like knowledge. Right. There's going to be a knowledge gap, isn't there?
Absolutely, yeah. And I kind of see this with just even coding on a daily basis with AI assistance we can produce code really quickly, but understanding it is still the biggest challenge.
Right.
I think beforehand, it was a lot of Googling and a lot of searching Stack Overflow, copying stuff off the internet. So there was still that knowledge gap. Nowadays, same thing is happening, but we also have the AI there to explain it to us, right? So it's feeding us information, it's feeding us an answer, but it's giving us an explanation, and it's helping us understand what to look for on our own next time.
Right.
As far as like even the cloud infrastructure and trying to set up large apps, you're absolutely right. AI is it's a great helper tool, it's a great assistant, but it's not a replacement for the engineer themselves. And that engineer, I think, needs to move into a little bit more of a systems engineer understanding, and our understanding needs to move a little higher level so that we can then orchestrate things better.
It's so interesting because, I mean, I'm going to relate this to your world. You're a photographer. You're starting to leverage AI to do editing and do it quickly. And so the idea, though, is like you had to live through the era of editing in camera, right? Where you're like taking pictures and you're thinking, oh, God, if I take it that way, I'm going to spend 3 hours trying to fix it later. So I don't want to take it that way. And that like learning cycle allowed you to become a better photographer to minimize the amount of work afterwards. But even then, you're able to now use AI. Younger photographers coming up who maybe don't have to go through that pain cycle because the AI can just do it for them. There's an interesting like tension between, well, then who cares? Take whatever photo you want. I don't need to do good job editing in camera. Maybe that's an unnecessary skill because AI can just fix it. And then there's but what do you miss out on if you don't have to go through that pain? It's the idea of like having to do it. You learn a ton. And I think every new technology has this problem. Like it's the classic, the teacher saying, that calculator, you're not going to know how to do the math. And it's like, that never came true. We don't even need to do the math anymore. Sure. The AI can do it for us. But then, so what portion of this becomes irrelevant skill sets because technology advances enough? Like how many people driving a car have no idea how a car works?
Sure.
And they don't need to. It gets them from point A to point B and there's a repair shop. So who cares?
Right.
But then it's like, how would you wrestle with that? Either one of you, like, what do you think about the photography example?
I mean, I think that it does show. I mean, older photographers and photographers who tend to obviously learn the camera still.
Sure.
I mean, the technology hasn't changed with cameras that much. It just takes better pictures now.
Even the generation prior to yours who had to do the film, they're like, you guys have no idea what it's like, right? Like every generation
and I
has
don't,
this.
But they're amazing photographers that I'm like, man, you guys did all this without the technology, which is so insane.
Yeah.
But even the technology, just, with Canon, that's what I shoot with over the past 15 years, it really hasn't changed that much. You're still manually setting all these things. People who shoot auto, I mean, that's going to show in all of your work. And no AI is going to be able to fix that.
That's true. Yeah. It'll add a couple fingers to the person or whatever if it does.
Honestly, the best part about AI being used for photography is just cleaning up the images and the noise and being able to, instead of, going into Photoshop like we used to and having to like draw people out and copy. Right. Now you just cover it with AI and like move that person out of the way.
So it's a great assistant, but not a replacement for a professional.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with it. It'll expose itself after a while, right?
Yeah.
Same with the engineering side of things is if you're using AI constantly, you're not understanding the underlying techniques, you'll expose yourself. You're just kind of kicking the can down the road, and you're going to create bigger problems down the road, if you really don't get what's going on.
That's where I think it's fascinating. Like right now, I see this intensity. This always happens with, the tension between investment and a myopic or a nearsighted deliverable and like a longer term growth strategy. It's like, hey, if the investors want dividends today and a return on their investment today, we cut corners, we use whatever we can to make a big splash. But then tomorrow we've got this like garbage. It's like, I can sell you something today that works great, but it's a horrible long-term investment. There's always that tension, and it's fascinating. I think there's a lot to say about that with AI stuff today. It's just go.
And I just think from an engineer's perspective is you're creating problems for your teammates at that point. Because, we come in on a team, we work on these apps, whether it's building new apps or maintaining current ones. Yeah. And the teams change frequently. So somebody else has to come in and understand what you've done properly.
Yeah.
Understand it without you being there. And so at the end of the day, if you're building something that you really don't truly understand, but that it works, you're creating problems for the other engineers who have to come in, understand that, add to it, things like that.
Yeah.
This maintainability, factor of it, and definitely just the thought of that AI can come in frequently now, but the people aspect of it needs to remain not only consistent, but I would think like documentation. We need proper documentation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You need to be able to teach people what you've built and things like that, right?
Yeah. It's a fascinating tension. I mean, I've been a little bit down on AI, I think, so far, but I'm just calling out the pitfalls or the things that we got to watch out for. I think it's here to stay.
Right.
I watched the digital transformation of cloud, and I saw that happening, and I did a lot of work in both Azure, AWS. I even got into GCP a little bit. I was working with banks and financial institutions all over the place, helping them transform their world. And I thought, well, this is a game changer for sure. Yep. But AI, I think, is also a big game changer. It's going to change the way we work, as any new technology does. I just think with AI, there tends to be this tendency towards. Actually, first of all, I don't like the name AI. I don't think it's actually intelligence. It's when a magician does a trick. It makes it tricks, it's an illusion because it appears to be something it isn't, right? And that's what happens when you put in something into Gemini or ChatGPT and it comes back and it's like, holy crap, that's like an actual human responded to me who's just like ridiculously intelligent. It's an illusion of intelligence.
Right.
It's almost like I'd rather call it, instead of artificial, I'd rather call it like not really intelligence or something. Like it's a magic trick kind of dynamic.
I totally agree. I think AI is a bogus name for it. God, back in the 80s when they first created it, it was called multi-layer perplextrons, which I think is a much better name.
It probably is, but it's not nearly as catchy.
Right? It adds a lot of fear to the name, right? Yeah. Artificial intelligence.
Right.
And that's what I was going to say is that I feel like there's a lot of fear that I see on social media when it comes to AI. It doesn't help all the videos of like showing things taking over.
Yeah. And it's hard to understand, right? Because most people don't get what an LLM is, right? It's an immutable object. It's not changeable. So you don't plug something in and it learns something about you. We have all these mechanisms for helping it remember your conversation, a context window, or like ChatGPT's memory thing is.
Which is really amazing, actually really helpful to me.
Right, but like the LLM itself isn't changing or learning anything about you at the moment. It needs to be trained on, by massive data centers that are running all of these GPUs to train it. And that understanding is going to be key to people in the future really getting and being comfortable with it. I think right now there is still all of that uncertainty. It seems like it's an intelligent object that is communicating with you, but it's got a very strict pattern on how it understands what you're saying and what to respond. And like I said, it doesn't change. Immutable means it's not changeable. It's set in stone once they, release the model itself. They then, in order to train it further or have it learn anything more, need to do that whole back-end process of training the model, which is what we hear about these things being so expensive, right? Sure. It takes tens of thousands of dollars and hours and server farms to actually train one model to get it in the ready state to be put out into public.
Yeah.
And AI can't just like do stuff on its own, correct? Like you have to put prompts in.
Right. And now, and that's like been one of the biggest challenges, and that's the next great frontier in the field is this thing called the Model Context Protocol. Is how do we take these LLMs and make them useful in software? Well, we have to give them a way to start to make actions, right? Create a file, delete a file. Hit an endpoint and get the data back, search a database and provide a structured response based on what's in the database. And that's where this next great thing, the Model Context Protocol, is coming in. And it's still in its infancy state, but it's helping all of these agentic AI models then connect to other services and actually perform actions. Beforehand, it was just insert a plain text response, get back a plain text response.
Yeah. It doesn't take much to be an AI company. All you have to do is hit an endpoint somewhere in your business process and get a response back, and suddenly you have an AI product.
Totally.
It's just, it's fascinating. So there's a lot of smoke and mirrors going on out there that's not really, and to that point, everyone's using the same endpoints. Everyone's using the same LLMs. It's not like there's a bagazillion different providers out there.
Right.
There's access points to get to them. There's customized solutions, maybe unique data sets that they're running off of. I think there's a normalization effect that's going to go, like there's this adoption model, like who's going to use the tool quickest and gain that competitive advantage. But then eventually that's going to go away and we're going to be right back at, if everybody's adopted it, now the playing field's equal again.
Sure.
Where's the differentiation?
And we go back to now we're driving our KPIs quicker.
Yep.
We're hitting our goals quicker.
Yep.
Your business model has to be solid, right? AI is a big augmenter.
Yep.
But it doesn't replace your business model.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So it's a interesting point in history where if you don't evolve, you will die because you're going to get left behind.
Sure.
But the evolution, I don't think, is all that radically innovative necessarily. It's just a shift in how we do business.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think to speak to that is, LLMs have been this big breakthrough. To put in a plain text response and get something plain text, natural language out of that was a huge step forward. People are forgetting all of the other fields of AI that are still progressing very quickly right now.
Interesting.
Things like, I would say still regressions and things like that. We're talking not plain text, but predicting numbers and predicting numbers accurately into the future and things like that. AI is while these LLMs have been such a huge breakthrough, the industry is still at its infancy, and we will see much, much more grow. And possibly it'll grow itself into its own industry, right? We'll have software, but maybe AI will be just its own industry because it's already fueling all these secondary and third markets, right? People to service the AI industry.
Totally.
And,
it's fascinating.
So how would you recommend people who are potentially interested in, especially that younger generation who's going to grow up with this, how do they even get into this field? How do they start learning about it?
Yeah, the funny thing is through AI is the best, best route right now. It's computer science, so our best resources have always been these online websites and things to go and learn how to code through. And education at a university, I don't think is irreplaceable. I think that they really at a university go through the fine details that you need to know to understand the field as a whole, right?
Sure.
But if you wanted to just get started and you can get yourself into an employable state pretty quickly through these websites. But now we have ChatGPT or Claude or all these other LLMs where you can just ask it, how do I start how to code? What is coding? All of these different questions to really get you started, right? And then just the greatest advantage is it's giving you a response. You can say, explain this to me like I'm a fifth grader, and it'll give you back these really clear-cut responses on what's going on and help you understand, I think, a lot of the big picture stuff that gets lost in the weeds when you start to get into the details,
Our 10-year-old is currently trying to use AI and coding to make his own video games. So
that's perfect. He will get there very quickly.
He is doing.
That's awesome.
I forget what tool he's using, but yeah, it's.
He has a friend in Canada, and they just like jump on a Google class and just sit there together and code and
nerd out.
And that's huge. In 10 years, he's going to be excelling above his peers in the field because he's doing things like that. Yeah. Projects are always the best way to get experience. And now we can just do projects that we're interested in, right? Yeah. Whatever I could think of a concept and then plug it into ChatGPT and say, how can I make an app around this, And it'll walk you through it step by step. And so that's huge, right? We can now then focus on our interests a little more instead of going to the internet and doing whatever project was put on there by someone else.
Right. Yeah, that's fascinating. That's fascinating. Well, real quick, let's pivot into a little comment about our sponsors, Desk Chair. They've sponsored this episode, and we are currently at the co-working location here in Loveland, Colorado. If you or someone you know is nearby and would like to participate, you can set up a tour online, and they'll be happy to walk you through. They've got multiple options for having dedicated desks, hot desks, private suites. Even if your company wants to rent out one of the boardrooms, they do that for on-sites. Fantastic facility, great community here. My experience here has just been wonderful. I joined many years ago, and then I had a lull in between where I had a local office, so I didn't have the need for it. But now I'm back to working fully remote and doing it again. But what's co-working been like for you, Ben?
It's been huge. I've worked remotely for 10 plus years now, and I was getting cabin fever in my house and getting lonely and not getting that interpersonal connection, right? And that communication.
That's how we met.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, so meeting people like you, meeting a bunch of other engineers here that are doing projects that are similar to mine, that can bounce ideas off of, it's been huge. And like I would really say, for people working remote who are not directly connected to their coworkers, a place like this can be huge to grow those types of connections.
Absolutely.
And find people with common interests.
Totally. The one thing I love about it is cross-pollination. Like if you just get into the echo chamber of your own company, you end up not, I tell people this, especially young people all the time. It's like, hey, it's good to be loyal. It's good to have some consistency, stay at a company for a few years. But a real value is to switch it up, because there's a lot of companies out there that don't have a clue what they're doing. They're doing the best they can what they have. And when you get exposure to multiple ways of doing it, you aggregate that knowledge, take the best of everything, and it really amplifies your exposure. So you can get that through a co-working experience, because I can sit here and talk to Ben on a podcast and learn a ton from his experience. And it's cross-pollination. Right. And it's just beautiful. So
the one thing I would add is just watching people do it. These are all small business owners and people who are making their living themselves, and it's really inspirational to see other people doing it, making it happen. It really makes you think that, I can do this too.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, what does the future look like for you as far as your own professional development? How do you build your own self-awareness? Like, what have you done? Do you read a lot? Do you do yoga? What do you do?
I'm getting a master's degree in data science right now. So that has been huge as far as progressing my career and understanding the data side of things. Outside of that, I read a ton. I read a ton of history. I really think that perspective is huge these days.
Totally. Quick note on that. I was reading something several years ago about when trains first came out. And it reminds me about our conversation of AI and people being afraid of new stuff. There were people afraid of what happens to the human body after it passes like 40 miles an hour or something. There were theories that you would just dissolve, and you're thinking, there is so much fear around the unknown.
Right.
We see that with like the Salem witch trials, and just people freak out. And we think that we've progressed.
Y2K.
Y2K. Yeah. Well, you think that we've progressed, and here we are in 2025, and there's all this naysaying about AI, and it's the movies, and like stuff. It's just wild. But anyway, history's a great place to look to go. Okay, we've done this before.
Yeah.
Where are we going?
I'm sure wagon wheel makers were pissed when the automobile came out, but now we all have one. It's abstracted away from us, like you said.
Yeah, you don't need to know how it works anymore. It just goes.
Adapt or die.
Yeah.
Adapt or die, that's it.
AI for sure, it's changing my industry really quickly.
Yeah.
As a developer for a company, I'm seeing AI being used by myself more and more frequently. Sure. And then we're starting to see things like soon, I'm sure that we as engineers could just write a user story and have the AI write all the code and create the merge request for us, right? There's no reason we should be really writing too much code anymore, which is a shame, and that'll be a difficult thing to let go of. There are people like me, especially, that don't want to get too far away from the code.
Sure, it's fun.
It's fun. It's interesting. It's
there's
challenging.
There's an eloquence to it as well. I mean, I'm not a trained developer. I've built some things. My code is it's mostly copy and pasting snippets, and just solving the problem is such a high.
Yes.
When you hit that, you're like, yes, I did it.
Totally.
And then I got to review one of my previous, he was the COO of a company I worked for, and I got to review his code, and I was like, I felt like a total nerd. I was like, this is beautiful.
Sure.
This is written so gracefully, the way it talks, it calls different things. So there's that beauty of the code writing that's fascinating to me. But yes, continue. I'm sorry.
We'll see, how that change goes for us.
Yeah.
How bringing in things like GitHub Copilot that we are having write most of the code for us is going to change what we do on a daily basis.
Totally.
So a few things I see is speeding up our sprint work is we can deliver things quicker. I'm creating merge requests quicker, getting it over to the QA team quicker.
Yeah.
So it should just speed up the whole life cycle.
Even QA itself.
Yeah.
And the test scripts. And
Absolutely.
It's just fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, unit testing now is bulletproof. We can, within seconds, write 100% test coverage, and we're on.
Yeah.
And so that's what I think, we need to move into the world of being more of product managers, more of business representatives, and understanding the business that we're coding for, because that AI is taking that part away from us. We used to be the specialists in the code. It's now the specialist in the code, right?
As a product person, I feel very like I picked the right side to be on. It's headed this way.
Well, and but you as product engineers will also have to become closer to the code, because if we're eliminating this position in the middle, are you guys going to be able to take over that whole job? Probably not.
No more sloppy user stories. We got to actually learn how to. Yeah.
We probably still need someone in the middle there to help bridge the gap between product and code. The engineers' jobs are not going away, but they're changing. And we need to adapt quickly and understand how it's going to change. And
anybody who thinks it isn't changing is going to get left behind.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So we'll see. I really think that, like I said, writing code on a day-to-day basis is probably going away. We need to understand what our user stories are doing, how they're providing value, write them appropriately so that these AI models can then produce that code no problem. And then who knows, from there, it could even go a step up, is where AI is understanding the epic. They're understanding the longer term. That is for the application. And then, who knows, maybe it could create all those merge requests at once, right? Maybe this isn't such a time-intensive process, but maybe over time the AI is recommending changes to the application. We have to review all those changes.
Well, this is where I think you're well positioned, because you started with an interest in business. And so you've always had this foundation of, I want to understand the why behind what we're doing, what's the business impact. And I think more engineers who have that dual understanding, who are focused on those things, they're going to be the ones who really excel.
Right.
So I think that's an exciting spot to be, for sure.
Yeah, and it's great because our industry applies to so many businesses, right?
It's every single one of them, right?
You could work for the MLB, or you could work for Google, and it's really interesting, right? And engineers just have to understand that. It's there's no more just being on the code side. You got to be on the business side, and I think find an industry that you really like, and dive deep into it. Head first into it.
That's awesome.
That is what is really going to get you interested and get you out of the mundane coding day to day, things like that, right?
Yeah. I mean, we have 3 sons. We've already mentioned one of them. Our oldest is 10 years old. And I'm just constantly thinking he's very technical oriented. The other 2, not so much, but he's like, he wants to be a robotic space engineer. Like, he's already coding using AI. And I'm just trying to think, how do I set him up for the best success with all of this variability and this change that's occurring? Because he has unbelievable talent, but it's causing me as a dad to already think about, like, wow, it's a whole new world out there with these new things coming out. But,
and that's a huge challenge, right? For educators also.
Totally.
they're not sure that what they're teaching right now is going to be relevant in 5 to 10 years.
Or even the
industry's
mechanism. The mechanism they're using to teach. Their students are using AI.
Right.
And there's all these mandates not to use it. It's kind of like telling people not to use a calculator.
Right.
Like, that's a losing battle. We have to adapt our educational approach to the milieu and the technologies available.
How do you think it's going to affect, the schools that kind of ban technology, or like technology is the evil? We're focusing on books. When those students graduate, from these classical charter schools and stuff that we're seeing, especially in our area, they are like, no, we're anti-technology actually. And I'm like, but when you go to college, how does that affect these students if this is where the industry is moving?
That's an interesting question. Sure. That's a whole nother episode.
It is.
Yeah, they might be.
We'll get some charter school people on and let them defend themselves maybe. That would be good to hear. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
They might be a little deficient in using AI and understanding how it works, but maybe they're way more proficient in reading the book and actually understanding the book.
Right.
Well, and on top of that, there's a lot of value in the classical education of actually getting in touch with your humanity.
Sure.
And then that's part of this. The reason I wanted to call this the human pro is because at the end of the day, you're never going to get rid of the humans. Yeah. They're just going to do different things, like you said earlier. And that human element, it's like, I think emotional intelligence, gaining awareness about who you are as a person, where you have insecurities, being able to connect with other people, that's always going to be there in business. And maybe it's the most important part of business. If you can't work together as a team, whether you're using AI or not, or whatever, I think that's critical.
Yeah, and I think that's AI is a big driver of that, hopefully now, is it's cutting out the mundane work, and it's allowing us to focus on people more and tasks more. And so I would say, like, now I'm going to be meeting with my fellow engineers more because we know the coding takes less time. Right. What we really want to do is understand the problem at hand and understand each other's takes on the problem at hand. And so on one hand, it's absolutely driving a little more humanity in things because it removes a lot of the mundane part, allows us to focus on the real task at hand, right? The real challenges that AI isn't good at solving, right? It's challenges that are left for the human brain.
Totally. So cool. I love that. Well, we started in asking you, like, what do you do for your own professional development? You said you read a lot, and we taught in history, and then we went back into AI again. So what are the other things you dabble into?
I do coding projects on my own also. One right now is centered around sports gambling.
Interesting.
I really don't place bets much, but what I want to understand is if the statistics would actually provide all the information you need, right?
Interesting.
So those little side projects that are personally interesting to you, I think those are huge as far as growing as a developer.
Right. If you find something that works, let me know. I'll place some bets on. I'll test it out. After it's proven that it's working pretty good.
I know, that's like that's the biggest challenge.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So,
for sure.
We'll get there. But I think other than that, just exploring the industry as a whole, paying attention to some of the macro parts are really important because the industry changes so quickly, and that has such a dramatic effect on our jobs. That's really helped me. I don't know. I think for a long time I came in as a developer and I thought, hey, I can put my head down and just code and I'll produce. And after a while, it just wasn't enough because I wasn't getting the concepts. Yeah. And things were changing so quickly. A new technology, like, hey, we're bringing in a new batch scheduling software, we're bringing in, we're going to change from this cloud provider to this cloud provider, or so on and so forth. And I understand, like, why is that happening, right? Totally. It seems like everything was working fine. There's no reason for a change. Yeah. Then you get to the macro side of things and the bottom line, and it's huge, right? It's really cool to see how you as a developer coding effectively can affect the bottom line on, say, a cloud deployment.
Sure. We
can now get full visibility into the cost of that thing, and then you can make a change and see how much less it costs you the next month to run it, or things like that.
It's amazing.
So the macro, understanding what your managers are getting after, understanding where the industry is going as a whole now too.
Yeah, that's huge.
These big AI companies, OpenAI, the Model Context Protocol, these upcoming things, it's hard to feel so comfortable that you can get into the new and upcoming, the latest and greatest cutting edge stuff. But at least like keeping an ear out to that is really beneficial.
It's fantastic. Well, Ben, I want to thank you for your time today. It's been really illuminating to learn and experience your story, where you've come from, where you're headed, and all of the things that you've gathered. It's a really great conversation. Amanda, thank you for joining as well. If you'd like to connect with Ben, he's on LinkedIn, Ben Eberle.
Yep.
Spell your last name for us, because I don't remember.
Eberle.
Okay, so we can find him on LinkedIn, reach out, keep this conversation going with him. If you've got things, if you're in the industry, I'm sure you'd love to connect with folks and just network that way. So subscribe to the podcast. We're looking forward to episode 2 coming out soon, and hope you enjoyed it. We'll talk to you later.